I'm a good person. I I take care of my staff. But when I saw your movie, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. So I said, why? And she said, because I realized we can do so much more. And I was like, that's amazing. I mean, what a. So, yeah, I mean, so for a lot of people, it was very hardcore because they didn't know what would happen. A lot of people told me, what a crazy twist at the end. And I said, what twist? I really said that. And they said, the twist. I said, what twist? I thought, they missed something. And he's like, when he kills the person. I was like, really? That's a twist? I thought it was obvious throughout, but yeah. And your second question was? The drafts. No, no, that wasn't a problem because I mean, he just told me a few times that he had been through drafts, but it was never. I mean, he went through those drafts like 10 years ago, so I don't think he had any great memory of them. And anyway, the book was such a strong distillation of all that, so yeah, that wasn't a problem. The real problem was, which is in any adaptation process, how much do you cut from the book? Like my favorite scene from the book is when he goes to his house and they try to get him married in the village, and he gets really upset because he's like, these guys are gonna put me back into the coop by this marriage thing, and he runs away from them, and he's so upset at his pathetic life that he climbs up this old fort, and the monkeys are looking at him, and he spits to God, at his creator. For me, that was the most beautiful scene in the book. But that it's hard to film that. We didn't put that in the movie, for example, and many other things, many other things. So yeah.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hi, Muk.
Hi.
So like, I wanted to know, like, you started this, I don't know what to call it, this animal, this movement of sorts, a whole amalgamation of all things called Bhavishyavani,
Yes, sir.
right? And it was way ahead of its time. I know at one point and it still continues to be. And could you, I think there's a whole generation out here who doesn't know what Bhavishyavani is.
That's true.
I mean, like everyone's like talking about these music festivals and, creative, cultural, cross-cultural, multicultural, so can you explain what the vision of Bhavishyavani was and what it was intended, and it's been successful. It's been more than 22 years now,
Yeah,
right?
we all were there at the 20th anniversary. That was amazing. Oh, sure. Bhavishyavani, which means future sounds, was basically me and some of my friends. I love music. It's my first love, I guess. And I like all kinds of music. I like jazz, classical, rock, everything. I like music is like I think I consider having a very deep knowledge on music. I can't say I do, sorry. Uh, um, but at that time, when we were much younger, we liked electronic dance music, which was a new kind of music that was happening all over the world, taking over the world. We're talking about 24 years ago, like a long time back. It was the sound of the future. It really was the sound of the future. It was also, this is 2022. Let's look back at 1999. I just came back from my first job in Germany in a company called Bertelsmann. I just come back. And in those days, you had no internet, nothing. So the way a lot of people met was in these gigs where you would come to dance to your music, to meet like-minded people, creative people. It was like a place of expression, and you really built communities with that. And when we came back to India, me and some of my friends, and some of my friends who lived here also, that didn't exist. What you had was, this is going to be funny, but you had like nightclubs where, no stags were allowed in, all those things, no stags, and then all these funny things. You had all these rules. There was no community thing in a club setting, basically. So it was a mix of wanting to expose a new kind of sound, which was drum and bass in those days, which was a very futuristic type of music. It came out of London in the 90s. It sounds crazy saying it today, but in the 90s it was the sound of the future. In the 90s, modernism was much bigger than it was now. In the 90s, culturally also, music, film and everything, the Matrix was there in the 90s. There was a lot of things in the 90s which made you believe the future would be a better place. That was a key aspect of the 90s. Bhavishyavani was a product of that. We're in 2023. We are hoping that we'll survive the future. Nobody is expecting a better future. We're expecting, Russia doesn't nuke us or whatever it is. We're happy to survive. But that was the 90s. So there was an optimism. So I think it came from that space. That we wanted to start something. So